thank you very much for the organizers for having me here, and thank you. I've been collaborating with Thermo, as you said, for 3 years, and it's been a pleasure, and I think we've accomplished some pretty amazing things. So I'll move on, and so one slide on where I came from. I've been doing mass spectrometry for a very long time and doing it in weird places. For about 15 years, I worked on environmentally targeted mass spectrometry applications, and about 6 or 7 years ago, a conversation with a good clinical biochemist friend pointed me on a pivot that has been wonderful and has allowed me to do a lot of very interesting and I think hopefully societally relevant things. So with that, I'm going to move on forward. My research is aimed at direct mass spectrometry. It's skip the dishes measurement. Maybe COVID set me up for that. So what I want to avoid, although very necessary in many cases, are the steps between the sample and the mass spectrometer. And so we tend to skip around those. And I'm not going to talk about most of the techniques that we use in our group, but I want to talk about one in particular that I got interested in when I saw it presented at an ASMS conference. Paper spray mass spectrometry is really simple and easy to do. You basically deposit a small sample on a paper strip, add some solvent and high voltage, and you get electrospray. It's I think, a really important tool that's coming up in the future for clinical work because it's a disposable interface that does all of your sample prep plus your analysis. And it can provide the same answers that we see in many cases with a chromatographic separation, so I like it. Later today, if you're interested, I'm going to be talking about work I've been doing on the opioid overdose crisis that's happening in North America and around the world. It didn't develop in my lab. I can give these gentlemen credit at Purdue for working on this technique and bringing it into its inception. And it is literally electrospray from a piece of paper. It looks a little crazy to see it happen. Electrospray from a probe is beautiful in a simple Taylor cone. We get a bunch of different jets forming. This brings challenges and opportunities, but in the end, it's a disposable sample interface that does our prep and our measurement, and we move on. Here's the clinical biochemist and lifelong friend, Jan Pallotti, that kind of pointed me in this direction. Nalani at Thermo has been really supportive. Armin, who I'll show at the end as well, has been the grad student that's worked on this particular project, and a few undergrads and another grad student that have been involved in the work you're going to see today. Antipsychotic monitoring is a fairly big market in BC and elsewhere, and they're simple molecules to look at by mass spectrometry with chromatography. They're also very simple and useful molecules to look at targeting with this direct mass spectrometry technique. And so it's something of value, and it's also something that you see a lot of samples coming through a clinical lab to be done. I'm not going to show you some of the early work we did with paper spray because I don't want to keep you here too long. I want you to enjoy your lunch as well as enjoy why you're here. But I started a collaboration with Thermo in 2018 before they actually released this product, based again on conference discussions, so that this is invaluable. When we get together as scientists, we actually talk and learn new things. The Thermo system was great. It's really one that's geared at the clinical world, and so you have this nice auto sampler that can load a bunch of little plates, and all these little plates have 24 sample strips that fit in a 96-well plate geometry, so it can be automated, so you can actually do science as you need to for the clinical world. We've been using triple quadruples, and I want to actually move into the high resolution world as well, because I think it's really quite important. So I have graduate students, and so the robot can actually do the work that we need to be done, but in my lab, Armin did the work manually, and so our sample workup for this analysis was really simple. We did a simple protein crash, centrifuged, and then spotted that supernate on the paper. You can actually do it without a spin down, and the crash is kind of useful because it helps to release analyte, but in the end, we could run the gooey mess that comes out of a crash without even precipitating. We just get a little better CV when we do the spin down. Working with the Thermo gear has been great. I've had the pleasure and the challenge of working on a number of different platforms as an academic, and I really liked how simple and elegant it was to actually set up your measurements. When I went to work behind the fence on this project at Thermo, we showed up and we had an ambitious goal of doing 100 drug targets for another project. and setting up all the MRMs, and I thought we're never going to get all this work done, and we did. So it was very easy to work in their software platform, and I liked that. Some of the parameters we use, but I guess the most important one is our measurement time is about a minute. And this actually, the instrument's sleeping really because we're doing a dwell time of 100 milliseconds. We typically run in other measurements about 2 or 3 milliseconds. Again, we add solvent, so there's no chromatography, and we chose to have a couple qualifiers and a quantifier ion in our MRMs that we're using to measure these drugs. What does the data look like? Well, it's essentially like direct infusion data. So we turn on the voltage, we see a rise in signal, and so this is 430 nanograms of clozapine and looking at its quantifying transition. And a blank would look something like this. So you basically have slug injection, and we integrate area and ratio against internal standard to do our quantitation. So it's very simple to do a direct measurement with this technique. The reason for the internal standard, which we use in general in mass spectrometry, becomes even more important with paper spray because you saw that erratic looking spray. Every measurement's a little unique, but with an internal standard, we compensate completely for the variability that we see in the measurement. So we wanted to take our work to the standards that are used in the clinical world and the toxicology world. And as an environmental mass spectrometrist, we do good work. But one thing I've learned is that the folks in this room do really good work. You really back up your work because it matters. Lives are on the line. And so we evaluated things like the specificity, the linearity, precision, bias, sample stability. We looked at to see if we could actually do something that was useful, so it had to be below clinical cutoff, and quantifier and qualifier ion ratios within tolerance. So this is how we kind of held what we were doing up to compare it with what is currently done. And so I said, okay, Jan, send me over some clinical calibrators so we can do some work. And this is what we saw for clinical calibrators right away, which looks like garbage. If you don't think so, I do. And so these are a bunch of replicates, and we actually were seeing huge signal suppressions for the internal standard for something that was in this prepared clinical matrix. So we thought, oh, this isn't going to work so well. And then we actually worked in human serum. So there's something in the calibrator that's actually interfering. I don't know if it's a preservative or whether it's an extra high protein load. I think it's a preservative, but anyway, we prepared our own calibrators, and this is the result of 5 days of 3 replicates all superimposed, and so we could see great linearity in our calibrations, great reproducibility. When we started to look at intraday and intraday precision, so this is plots for 5 days, 3 levels, and you can see we're getting quite excellent actually in our precision across time and also in each day. Paper has been used for a very long time in the clinical world as a sampling platform. So you spot a blood spot, you ship it away, but we wanted to see how this could be used with our clozapine measurements. So can we actually store samples on the paper? So these are dried sample spots that were basically prepared by pooling patient samples. So we had 3 different levels or 2 different levels, and you can see across time for clozapine and norclozapine across 6 days, essentially excellent storage, and they were just stored at room temperature in the lab in a drawer. So again, a very simple and facile technique, but maybe also one that could be important and translated across other analytical methods used in the clinical world. So how do we fare? Well, our LODs are quite good, our lower limits of quantitation are quite good, and we're well below clinical cutoff, so I think the method is quite relevant. And again, we had great sample stability for both of these things, and it's a mass spec technique, and so we have a quite large dynamic range, and that's typical of many mass spec analyses. So how did this work for real samples? So I got 39 patient samples sent over that were analyzed by liquid chromatography mass spectrometry on a validated assay in Vancouver. So they were shipped by courier. They were analyzed by paper spray, 1-minute run. And this is what we saw for clozapine and norclozapine. And so you can see we've got a little bit of a bias on cloz and norclozapine, but it's not too bad. But when you actually look at what is really diagnostic, which is the drug metabolite ratio, is what they're following here for the therapeutic drug monitoring, our bias was actually quite excellent and across quite a range of samples. So we were demonstrating that this technique works and works well, but we're also demonstrating that it is providing maybe a clinically relevant, rapid way of changing workflow. So I'm not suggesting that a technique like this is going to step in and replace all of our validated assays now. But if you can direct a workflow, as even presented by our other presenter, if we can change the way we think about how we use the instrumentation, we can provide quicker answers and maybe ones with more accuracy. And so in summary, paper spray mass spectrometry for measuring clozapine and norclozapine works quite well. We held it up to the standards that are used to validate liquid chromatography mass spectrometry, and I think it's demonstrating that it can work. And so I really think that it's quite a viable strategy that maybe we need to consider as we move forward doing therapeutic drug monitoring. And of course, you don't do this alone, and so Thermo Fisher has been very supportive of the work I've been doing, as has the Canada funding agencies, collaborators in the clinical world, my universities, and do you have any questions? And before we get to questions, my student Armin, he also likes bikes, but he likes to go at 200 kilometers an hour, whereas I'll take it a little easier. You know, I still like the challenge of mountain biking, but he made me bring this up. So he's smiling, I think, in his helmet, but anyway, thanks for your time.